Imagine hiding in a bathroom for 3 months while men with knives hunt your entire religious community outside. In such atrocities, when you lose your entire family, how can anyone retain their sanity? One woman did, and her story will change how you see pain, faith, and forgiveness forever. In April of 1994, the small African nation of Rwanda descended into unthinkable horror. Decades of simmering tension between its two main ethnic groups, the Hutus and Tutsis, erupted into widespread violence. It resulted in a mass genocide that claimed nearly 1 million lives in just 100 days. Most of those murdered were the Tutsis. When the killing spree came to an end at the end of 3 months, the country was massively devastated. A new government was sworn in who had to bring justice to the victims of this terrible crime. While the leaders of the genocide were taken to task, there were hundreds others who had participated in the killing. It was impossible to prosecute them all. How do you rebuild a nation with such a terrible legacy of mass slaughter and sorrow? This tough question had no obvious answer. So the new leader, Kagame, asked the Rwandan people to do the only thing that could reunite their fractured country. He asked them to forgive. Given the scale of killings and devastation that the Tutsis had endured, it seemed almost cruel to ask them to forgive. But Kagame did just that. Why? Because he saw that the only way for the country to move forward together in unity was to forgive and start anew. Across Rwanda, survivors and perpetrators sat face to face. The surviving victims spoke of their unimaginable loss of loved ones. The killers silently heard and then pleaded for mercy. It was raw. It was painful. While not everyone agreed with this method of moving the country forward, most people complied. In the middle of this darkness stood a survivor named Immaculée Ilibagiza. When the Rwandan genocide started, Immaculée was home on a break from school. One morning, Immaculée's father handed a rosary in her hand and instructed her to go to the neighboring house of a Hutu pastor for safety. There, she was hidden in a tiny bathroom with 7 other women. Immaculée remembers those first few days in hiding. A sense of hopelessness, anger, and losing all faith that she would ever get out alive. It was then that she heard a group of Hutu men enter the home, searching for any hiding Tutsis. She remembers in that moment begging God to restore her faith in Him. As she heard their voices just outside the bathroom door, she closed her eyes and thought, "If there is a God, please do not permit me to be killed today." After searching the whole house, when the killers were about to open the bathroom door, they stopped, turned to the owner of the house, and told him they trusted him and left. In that moment, Immaculate's faith was reborn. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Inside the suffocating silence, another war raged. The war within. Immaculate felt anger and hate for being stuck in the bathroom, for the state of Rwanda, for the loss endured by so many. She spent bitter months trying to convince God that she had a right to feel enraged. She planned how to seek revenge once she got out of hiding. But then something shifted inside her. She suddenly realized that this sort of hatred was in fact the very reason of the horror that had consumed their country. She realized that anger and hatred becomes a sickness, and holding on to those feelings would only make her sicker. She realized what hurts one hurts another. So Immaculate turned to the sacred books. She diligently recited prayers. She was determined to overcome her anger and hate. As an antidote, she continued praying to God, saying, "Help me to forgive them, O God, for they know not what they do." Finally, when the murders had ceased, Immaculate stepped out into the world. After 91 days in a silent tomb of fear. But what awaited her was not relief. It was a world in ruins. Her entire family had been slaughtered, and yet she did not collapse. She rose again, wounded but not broken, grieving but not bitter. She kept reminding herself that there is always someone in a worse situation, which allowed her to keep things in perspective. Eventually, Immaculate decided to go to the jail to see the man who had killed her family, wanting to make sure that she had actually truly forgiven. When she looked at him, she broke down and cried out of compassion for him. She did not see him as a monster, but as a blind man who lacked perception of the heinousness of his crime. She looked him in the eyes and said, "Today I forgive you in the name of God." It was then that she knew she had really forgiven him. Immaculate had understood that her anger could not undo the past. It could not bring back her mother's voice, her father's embrace, or her brother's laughter. The only way she could move forward and live a healthy life was to forgive. Immaculate's choices reflected the wisdom of the Vedic scriptures. Let us read from Bhagavad Gita for everyday living. Sri Krishna says in verse 55 of chapter 11, Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu ya samameti pandava. The commentary explains, describing the traits of exclusive devotees, the Lord explains that they are without malice towards all beings. Because if the heart fills up with hatred, it will not remain exclusive towards God. Thus, exclusive devotees do not harbor any malice, even towards those who have harmed them. Instead, thinking that the Lord resides in the heart of all beings, they see all actions as stemming from Him. And so they forgive even their wrongdoers. Throughout her process of forgiveness, Immaculée drew inspiration from the people she admired, like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela. No matter how much they had suffered, they always did what was right. She made the decision to live a life without bitterness, emulating the great heroes of peace and forgiving those who had killed her near and dear ones. Years later, Immaculée also began volunteering at orphanages and helping those in need. She realized that by giving love, love comes back to you. That is how Immaculée chooses to live her life. Very few of us ever encounter the kind of pain that Immaculée Ilibagiza faced. Nonetheless, we consider ourselves hurt in ways that feels impossible to forget. Betrayed by a colleague, abandoned by someone we loved, or stung by a careless comment that lingers long after it is said. Such emotional wounds often simmer with bitterness, resentment, and inner turmoil, making us question the fairness of life. The pain may seem justified, even righteous, but the longer we hold on to it, the more it hardens into a toxic grudge. Hence, forgiveness is not merely a noble virtue. It is the key to a peaceful and fulfilling life. It is the bridge between hurt and healing. Immaculée Ilibagiza's life is a radiant reminder that forgiveness is not the end of justice, it is the beginning of freedom. It does not excuse cruelty, it releases you from its chains. Forgiveness is not forgetting the past, but transcending its power to control your future. Nothing dissolves emotional hurts more effectively than pardoning the offender. Because when we forgive, we step out of the spiral of pain into the sacred space of clarity and closure. We choose healing over hatred, peace over poison. That is when we embody a strength far greater than anything revenge can ever display. Immaculée's sublime example shows that forgiveness is a choice that is always open to us. She chose to love and not hate. What is your choice in life? Will you let pain destroy you from within? Or will you rise through the ashes on the wings of forgiveness?